In this asylum, I run the place. I love the look on your face. In this asylum, I wish you well, 'cause I'll be standing at the gates of hell. With twisted thoughts of you and me, mixed with twisted imagery. Toxic love affair, and toxic goddamn air.
Hi guys, welcome to the American Ghost Hunter show. Tonight on the show we have a British guest, so unfortunately Annie the American is outnumbered tonight. I'm sorry Annie, I hope that's okay.
It's okay, I'll hold the fort down in the US.
You represent America.
I'm trying to, the best that I can.
I mean, it's called the American Ghost Hunter show, so it's a farce really when you think about it. But so yeah, I mean, this is we've got a great guest for you as usual. I've been looking forward to having Paul on. Paul is the director / owner of Haunted Magazine and also editor-in-chief. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
That's correct, yeah.
Good. So, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Stevenson.
How are you doing, everybody?
Is he in that direction or is he in that direction? I can never know. So Paul, let's get things rolling. I'm gonna see what people are saying on the chat, but let's start with, why did you start a paranormal magazine?
I think what it was I've always loved the paranormal since I was a kid. I've always enjoyed creative writing and that kind of thing. And I think in 2006 I had the idea of doing a magazine about the paranormal. And to be fair, I did my research and there was nothing out there. There was some good ones, like 14 Times over in the UK, but nothing that I wanted to have a bit of fun with, a bit of creativity with. Make it for, not take away the science, take away the experiments, that kind of thing, and make it for people who just love the paranormal, plain and simple. So it took about 2.5 years to get that on the ball rolling, and then in 2009 the first issue came out. So basically since then it's been most part of my life for 10 years now.
And how did it develop then, when you were sort of thinking about what's going to be in it, who's going to help you write for it, etc.?
I think the first issue I did most of it myself, to be fair. But I think as it got out there more, and to be fair, the magazine came out a year before social media really took off. So in 2007 and 8, you got Facebook, and that really helped because it's a free marketing tool. So that got more people aware of the magazine. People in America could look at it and like it and want it. So it really helped. So, and then people wanted, I've got a feature. I love your magazine. Can I write for you? And it just obviously snowballs from then. So, we're in a position now where we've got so many writers and so many great people supporting the magazine. It makes it a lot easier to do every issue, to be fair.
And what's your favourite thing about running the magazine?
I think it's finding out about stories that I didn't know about. Finding out about how people who aren't writers have got a story to tell, and they send us the feature, and it's brilliant. People say everyone's can write a story. Everyone can tell a ghost story. Everyone's got a ghost story. But these people who've never written before say the most amazing things, and it's just brilliant to be able to edit it, shape it, design it, and stick it out there for people to read.
Definitely. Obviously, I'm not going to go on too much about it, but yeah, I edit and run a magazine as well, and so I can relate to what you're talking about. And for me, I always read the stories that we get, and I like to read them because I always learn something that I didn't know. Even if I'm writing an article myself, I always learn something that I didn't know, because sometimes I choose a subject that I know nothing about. But yeah, so I can relate to you on that and completely agree with you. Just hearing people's stories and learning things that you didn't know before about aspects of the paranormal, it is a pretty cool thing.
Brilliant.
Annie, is there anything? Who have we got on the chat tonight? Any?
Oh, so lots of
crazies?
people in the chat right now. Let's go back here. Tony Santori says hello. Melanie Hamlin Brown. Let's see. Scott Longman says hi, guys. Let's go back here. Laura Marini is watching. Bill Chapin, Jason Miller. Sorry, I'm going through and picking up some of the ones that are just coming through.
MJ, obviously you know who that is, Paul.
Hello, MJ.
She's looking forward to issue 23. We'll talk about MJ in a minute because she's going to be in the new issue.
Oh, yeah, she is. Mm-hmm.
So, hi to everybody. And one question that stood out from Jeremy Krigo wants to know the most haunted location that you visited over there that we could read about in the magazine.
At the minute, I'd say there's two that I really love. 30 East Drive in Pontefract, which is the home of the infamous Pontefract poltergeist, which I think Nick Groff and Katrina visited him during paranormal lockdown. And also, I'd say recently, for me personally, it has to be a place in Leicestershire called the Haunted Antiques Research Centre, which is like a museum.
I've heard about that place, yeah.
It's a great place, and we have so much activity there. It is off the charts.
Is that a recent place that's become available for paranormal investigation?
Yeah,
I've only started seeing it recently.
Yeah, about 14 months ago, to be fair.
Yeah. And is it because it's an antiques place? Are there spirits attached to objects and things in there? Or?
You know what? I think it's twofold. I think it's because the building may have something there, but Neil, the owner, brings all these fantastic antiques from all across the world that may or may not have attachments. I mean, Neil never says, I brought a haunted World War II helmet. It's to see if anything is attached to it. And we've had so much things going off there. You know, he's got some death masks, some really amazing tarot Ouija boards and World War II stuff, and it's just amazing.
That's awesome.
People who go have been there. Every night is different. Every time we go, we run events there as well, two events a month, and every time we go, it's just so different every time. It could be this room, it could be that room. It is for me one of the best locations I've ever been to.
I mean, I love going to antique shops because it's basically like a free museum.
Yeah.
That's what me and my wife go to, like antique places all the time just to see what there is. And funny story, because she's a medium, there was in this antiques place in the middle of Norwich, there was someone's arm, not a real arm, a prosthetic arm. And I basically went and touched her with it, and suddenly she was like, "Don't touch me with that." I was like, "Why?" Because there's some weird guy attached to it. And yes, that's one of my favourite stories about an antique place.
You know what? If you believe in the theory that things can attach to things, who's to say that something from 80 years ago can hold something inside it? Do you know what I mean? So, you know, it's like it's the paranormal all over. Nothing's proven 100%. Nothing's disproven 100%. So there could be a case of all this World War I stuff, World War II stuff, holding something inside that it's seen or that it's been in contact with.
Definitely, I agree with that.
The energy that went through that prosthetic arm, and then you touched her with it. No wonder she hated it so much.
Well, I mean, you know, I suppose a prophetic. I can't say the bloody word. Someone say it for me.
Put your teeth in.
Someone say it for me, please. Christ.
Prosthetic arm.
Thank you. One of those. I suppose one of those sort of things is something that's like extremely personal because someone would have had to use it every day because they didn't have a choice. So if they're going to be attached to anything, it would be something that they had to use every single day of their lives. And I think that's why I've heard about a lot of chairs being haunted as well. Like if you sit in a certain chair, you're going to see someone. Like the witch's chair at the Ancient Ram Inn. Have you ever investigated the Ancient Ram Inn?
No, it's one place that I'd love to go.
That's
but
surprising.
I've not been to.
Yeah,
You know what?
if you do go
Years
in
ago,
the
there was
summer.
like 10 or 11 locations that everybody went to, but now there's so many, especially in your local area, that are easy to get to, that they become sort of like your first and foremost ones. But there are ones further away that you should visit, but you don't get time to, or it's on a list of a waiting list to do.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many in the UK. You know that personally, but
Yeah.
it's just things like the Cage at St Osyth, and you know,
I have to be honest.
Jail.
On the Cage,
It's really great locations.
On the Cage, I'm not a big fan of that personally.
Well, I think I've heard it's closing or not. I'm
Well,
not 100% sure.
I've done it before, and I mean, even if we don't get anything, get a feeling from a place, but I've just got nothing from that place, personally. But then again, a lot of people say it is haunted. That's the problem. There's so many places that I go to and think, oh, this is like it's one of the most haunted places in the UK, apparently. And you go there and you get nothing, and you think, well, this place isn't haunted at all. And then you get other people saying, oh no, it's really haunted and stuff. I'm like, well,
you know what though? I always
what's
say,
wrong with me then?
I mean, people diss 30 East Drive because it's based around a film.
In fairness,
house,
I have done
kind of
that.
thing, you know, and it's a true story. But there's a film that came out, and then the director bought the house, and then he does events. But you know, it's like if you've been to 30 East Drive and you've had a quiet night and you don't believe it, you can say that. What I don't like is people who've never been, and they say, oh, it's fake, it's not haunted. You know what? The only way you can prove that or is go for yourself and experience something.
Well, when we had Katrina on the show, obviously we touched on that because, I mean, it's one of her favourite locations. But obviously, her and Nick were basically there for a whole week, and I think that's something you've got to do with 30 East Drive. I know, obviously, it's the house, it's in the film, and that's where people go to do the investigations, but I don't think the house itself is haunted. I think it's like the area or the road itself that's haunted.
Well, you know, mate, you might be right, but you know, if you research into it, it's on some land that was a crossroads before all the houses were there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was linked to the local the church or the abbey, and there are rumoured to be tunnels underneath Pontefract that link to the church. So it depends how. I always look at history and hauntings as layers and layers. You know, what was there before the house,
and especially in this country, there's layers.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as I said, especially in this country, there's layers upon layers upon layers of history.
States, we only have, I guess, you know, next to you guys, we're like babies over here. Our history doesn't go back nearly that far.
Yeah, you're like our Canada's our good child, and you're like our problem child.
Stepchildren, like in Cinderella. We have to. You guys, like you said, the layers on top of layer on top of layer, and you never know when you go in which layer you're going to get, or could you could be talking with or reacting with different layers, different time periods. Just because you've got one reaction to one thing doesn't mean you couldn't get another to another, because different layers of energy.
Yeah, when Nick and Katrina came to do the UK version of Paranormal Lockdown, they were visiting castles that were like 1,200 years old. You know, and that's like they couldn't fathom that out, because obviously the history of America is notably 200, 300, 400 years old. So they were sleeping in places that were older than the country. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing I used to laugh about, because where I used to live, the house was basically 500 years old, and I always used to joke with my friends in America that our house is older than your country.
It's true, and we're very envious of that. So.
But the difference is, I mean, yeah, America doesn't have as much history as what we have. I mean, there's a location in Kent called Fort Amherst, which I've been to a lot, and I didn't actually realise, but there was actually evidence of a Roman settlement on the same spot. So although it's a Napoleonic fort dating back to like the late 17th century, there's evidence to show that Romans were there, and that's going back to like what, AD 46, 50,
Yeah,
I don't know exactly.
2,000 years, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, basically nearly 2,000 years ago, which is mental. And our history is that old. We're still figuring things out. Like, I mean, pure example, the Celtic queen Boadicea or Boudica. It's like, no, her name's pronounced this way because we've discovered something, so it was actually pronounced this way. So we're still figuring things out about our history, which is kind of crazy. But one thing that America has that we don't have is obviously the Native American aspect, and that throws up a whole other whirlwind of paranormal.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean they're so spiritual, and obviously you've got Wendigos and Skinwalkers and all these other crazy things that they have in their world that is just not going to be over here.
I think also, sorry Alex, I think cryptozoology and that kind of thing is bigger in America than it is in the UK as well.
I mean, in America they've got Bigfoot. In the UK, we've got a big black cat somewhere.
Yeah.
We have Bigfoot, and there's one close to where I live called Mothman. But the Mothman also goes back to Native American legend. The area that I live in was a very highly Native American populated area before the Europeans came in, and it's right on one of the main rivers here. So we do have our monsters. No castles.
No, I mean, but you guys, I mean, compared to the UK, you guys have a lot more. I mean, there are obviously prisons and asylums in the UK to investigate, but in America, you've got a lot more asylums and prisons to investigate. We have the castles, you have the asylums.
So I guess it all equals out at some point, but it's interesting. That brings us to a good question for Paul. Darren Buss in the chat wants to know, are there any U.S. locations that you would like to investigate?
I've always wanted to do Lizzie Borden's house. Is it the Basilica Axe Murder House?
There's a lot of axe murder houses in America for some reason.
Yeah. There was one, I think, is it H.H. Holmes, who had designed a hotel. I'm not sure if it's still there, but he designed a hotel where there was trapdoors and there was false walls.
Yeah.
You could move in between the rooms.
Was that
something like that? The Queen Mary.
What did H.H. Holmes do then? Because didn't he have like a murder hotel place as well?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. I think that's what I'm talking. Yeah. I mean, there are. As daft as it sounds, there were rumours a couple of years back that he came to England or came to London during the Ripper murders. And I don't know how true it is, but there are some rumours that he may have been at one point a contender for the Ripper. Yeah,
I think. You're referring to Jeff Mudgett, the great grandson of H.H. Holmes. He's the guy that wrote the book that ended up becoming that documentary on TV, The American Ripper, or whatever it was called. I think it was called that. Where basically he believes that his great grandfather, or however great it was Jack the Ripper. Yeah.
And he did. He built a hotel that had all these like trap rooms in it, and I don't think it's there anymore. But it was a place that when Jeff Mudgett did his, he did a show for the History Channel. I think they kind of excavated the area that was around it, or visited that area. I want to say maybe Chicago. I'm not sure.
I mean, I'd also love to do Gettysburg, because obviously Gettysburg is a famous place for you guys where there are so many deaths and so many horrific things happening that there's got to be something there.
Yeah,
I mean,
Gettysburg.
I think Gettysburg for American paranormal investigators is kind of like the holy grail, considering the amount of activity that people report and the amount of history there. I mean, Gettysburg basically changed the entire history. Well, at the time, the future, but it changed the history of America. But the one funny thing about the Civil War in America, a friend of mine, I won't name who, I was at a location in the UK and we were talking about a Civil War soldier, and he was like, "Why would there be a Civil War soldier in the UK?" I was like, "We had a Civil War as well, you know."
Yeah. It's not exclusive to America, you know.
I mean, there's civil wars going on right now. But I mean, our Civil War wasn't. I don't know if I'm kind of being disrespectful towards our own nation here, but I feel as if America's Civil War was a lot bigger than ours.
Yeah, it's got to be, because obviously,
Plus
by
our Civil
definition, the country's bigger anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think it was bigger and more important for terms of the history.
Yeah. Plus, our Civil War was kind of like cancelled out in a way because it was, in case hi Americans, if you don't know, basically we had the king against our parliament, and our parliament won, got rid of the king, chopped his head off, and then the guy who led parliament to victory decided that he was going to be basically, well, in layman's terms, an emperor. And then when he died, his son didn't want to take over, so we brought the king's son back. So it was kind of pointless in the end. Yeah, but that's history.
Typically.
All right, I want to quickly talk about your next issue. One of the reasons why, obviously, we were talking about it just before we went live. You got an article about a new comedy series that's on the BBC. Hopefully, it'll be out in America. I'm hoping it will be because it is so good. But before we get to that, obviously, you've done an interview with a friend of this show, a friend of mine, a friend of yours, a friend of all of yours, I'm sure.
Yeah.
MJ Dixon, obviously, who is going to be starring in a new TV show that starts tomorrow in the UK. Obviously, it's not just MJ that's in it. There's Jason and some other people that I know that are also going to be on it. And it's going to be it's called Paranormal Captured, and it's going to be on Pick TV. I don't know what channel that is in terms of numbers because I don't actually have Sky or Freeview or anything. I just watch stuff on Catch Up.
So they change them every now. I think it's 1/4 something, but if
yeah,
you just
it's
search
always
Pick
changing.
TV on your TV guide in the UK, then I'm sure you'll find it. And if I was you, I'd just make sure everybody's listening or watching. Make sure you record it.
It's about time.
Quite good.
It's about time we had a decent British paranormal show in the UK because Most Haunted. I mean, I've got nothing bad to say about Most Haunted because, I mean, without them, the paranormal industry probably wouldn't be as big as it is. But I feel as if they should retire. And I'm so glad that there's going to be a new British paranormal TV show on TV. So obviously you MJ was interviewed for the magazine. So what did you guys talk about? Did you talk about the new series?
Yeah, we talked. I mean, I've known MJ for a long time now, and just an amazing person as a friend, and also in the paranormal world.
Great accent as well.
And everything. But we interviewed MJ, Danny Moss, and Jane Harris, who are also on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't always about the show; it was about themselves as investigators, because we're all different. We all see different things. Some of us are spiritual, some of us are medium, some of us don't like gadgets. So it's just nice to get a feel for these people and see how they like to work. But essentially, the show is basically a location that may be haunted. These guys go and do an investigation there, and they are being not being checked, but they are being watched by other investigators and being commented on. So it's really quite a different style of show, because a lot of shows that we get, like docudramas, that kind of thing, take away Paranormal Lockdown and those kind of shows, we get a lot of shows that are things have happened and it's a sort of like a reenacted scene, but this one could really go down really well, I reckon.
Yeah, it does look intriguing to say the least. And although I'm not sure, because I don't have live TV in my house, so I'm going to have to try and find it somewhere online, hopefully, to watch it. But it does sound good. And so I mean, MJ commented, it's going to be awesome, guys. It's on Pick TV. It starts tomorrow at 10 PM in the UK. And if you go, I'm not going to, Freeview 11, Freesat 144, Virgin 123, Sky 152. They're the channels. It's all there. But no, it's. I mean, obviously, we know the people that are on it. They're great people. They're not like bullshitters or anything. No, they're good people.
Because of social media, Danny, Jane, and MJ are all active on Twitter. So a lot of people who are fans of the paranormal, people who read the magazine, people who are involved in the paranormal, know these people. They talk to them on a regular basis, and they engage in conversations about the paranormal. So it's like watching a family member or a really good friend on TV. It's really interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Definitely. And also, in your next issue, obviously I mentioned it just now, there's an article in there about the new comedy series on BBC called Ghosts.
Yes.
I'll just give a quick overview of this show. Basically, this young woman inherits a mansion which is haunted by ghosts, and they're all from different eras, and basically you get to see what it's like in their world, and then the young woman, something happens to her, so then she's able to see them, and yeah, I mean it's just hilarious. It's so good.
I think it's, you know what? Sorry, Alex, again.
It's okay.
I'm sure you're the same. It's how I want the paranormal to be. I want them. When I'm ghost hunting, I don't want to be nothing there. I want ghosts to be looking around me, thinking, "What's he up to?" and that kind of thing. Let's try and scare him.
Yeah.
Like,
Unless you go into a location that's getting investigations every week, they're kind of like, "Oh, for God's sake."
Exactly. There's one scene in episode 1 that one of the ghosts tries to push a cup.
Yeah,
and
that's
brilliant. Tries, and and eventually the cup moves and smashes on the floor, and all the other ghosts start clapping him. Really well done.
But it's not. He doesn't just push it. He's literally like he's pushing something that weighs like 50 kilograms. Or I don't know what that is in Imperial. Sorry, America. But yeah, I mean, because he's going like that on an empty cup. Basically, it's just that has to be what it's like to be a ghost. I mean, one of the writers, obviously they're the guys who did Horrible Histories and Yonderland, and they've done other stuff. They're so great. I mean, one of them.
We interviewed them, and they've all got different. They all write separately, but they also write together as well.
Yeah. And
it's just interesting to see how it works. I mean, the scary girl, and how they all ghosts are scared of a scary girl, and that kind of thing, and how nobody, a caveman, a haunted caveman. I mean, the ghost of a caveman who's obviously been in ghosts for so many years. Like, he can talk
very
now.
long.
He's picked up so much information about Google.
He appears to be
like
the most.
Just,
I get a feeling he's the most intelligent as well because he's so old.
Yes.
But then obviously you've got I'm assuming a early Victorian writer. You've got someone from the 80s. You've got a disgraced MP who died in some sort of sexual thing. Who has no trousers, just a shirt and a tie and a jacket. I mean that's so good.
What's going on over there? Ghosts. Why can't they bring that to the U.S.? They only show that on Netflix.
Well, hopefully it will be over in America at some point. I mean, I don't know if it was brought up when they were spoken to, but one of them has to have some sort of, one of them must be able to see or talk to ghosts in some way. Because I just feel as if it is so accurate, even though I can't say for definite that it is.
That kind of question. I think half of them are interested in paranormal, but they just, when they were writing, they thought, what can we do next? Because obviously, history plays a massive part in the paranormal,
and in their lives as well.
They've been involved in horrible histories.
Yeah.
And I think somebody said, well, let's write about a haunted house. With ghosts from all over the generations, Victorian, Edwardian, caveman. And they said, no, we dismissed that, let's go on to something else. And then they came back to it, and they realised that it could work. So, and it does work. I find it absolutely hilarious. It's one of the best things I've seen. And it just makes me laugh so much.
Because Horrible Histories, the thing that they started on, I mean, that was a children's TV show.
My kids love it. My kids have learned so much.
But I love it. I don't know how many times I've watched those shows and stuff because it's on Netflix. I think it still is, and I think I've watched it at least. I think I've watched every season at least twice on there, because it's actually. I mean, it's a great way to actually learn things because it's actually true, you know.
Yeah.
And kids learn because it's funny, and that's what's great about it. And I think it's the same with this. People are going to learn about the paranormal without realising it.
You know what? I think people who are sort of like outside the paranormal bubble just think we're mad anyway. So, by ghost hunting in the dark with things that might not be real. But to see this, it's just I've always respected the paranormal. I've always had a bit of fun and a laugh with it. But it's just how I want the paranormal to be. I want people to. I want ghosts to walk around and see what I'm doing and that kind of thing. I want them to try to move things. I love it. I just can't praise it enough.
I just hope there has to be an episode where they actually have paranormal investigators come in, because that'd just be brilliant. What was that, Annie?
When you take yourself so seriously, you see these people in the paranormal field that are just so serious about everything that they do. You have to have a laugh about some of this stuff, or it would drive you insane. If you
definitely.
have a sense of humor about it, then it's not your place. We all have to laugh every now and again.
It's almost as if there's some people in our industry who take themselves way too seriously and take the paranormal way too seriously, that they'll watch it and think, oh, this is disrespectful, I'm not watching this. I'm like, what? It's like, I mean, if you're gonna, if you're that adamant that something like this would be disrespectful, then don't paranormal investigate, because surely that's disrespectful.
Exactly.
Don't disturb them. Leave them be.
It's the paranormal over. There's more divides and there's more people. We could all get on, but we're not all friends. We know that in the paranormal world. But you can get on. You can do your own thing. You can respect other people's work, and that's it. If you don't, you don't all have to agree on the same thing, but you have to, discuss and debate. And if you disagree, then what's wrong with that?
Nothing. I mean, the only issue is if you try and disagree with someone, sometimes they get so defensive that they find it insulting, which has been my problem in the past. But then again,
you know what? If they get mad, or if they call you names, in my opinion, you've won the argument, because they have to resort to that to appear to get one over you. If they can't debate in an adult way, then they're not worth talking to, in my opinion.
Definitely. So, Annie, what do you think of this show we're talking about?
I think it's incredible. Honestly, I love hearing about your culture and your haunts. And I want to go back and talk a little more about the magazine. You said that you actually have people send stories to you that you publish. And so when you're talking about keeping other people who aren't actually, if they're not a part of it, they're not writing for it or editing, it keeps them interactive with it. So what are some of your favorite submissions that you have published? Some of the craziest stories that stand out to you?
We've got actually one in this issue, and it's by a medium called Nikki Allen, who's a medium over in the UK, a lovely lass from Essex, and she just writes in a way that I think most people can affiliate with, because she writes in a way that it's not science, it's not too spiritual. She wrote a story about going to a house, a location where this woman was getting plagued by, her daughter was getting plagued by a lady who was visiting the girl, and the girl was scared. But she wrote it from the perspective of her going in from the start to the very finish, and rather than just having part of a story, she wrote from what she felt when she first went in, meeting the lady. The lady who visited apparently used to live there with her husband. Her husband passed away, and she tried to visit or something like that. It's in the magazine. And the girl was scared. The girl was in the same bedroom or something where they used to stop. And Nikki said to the ghost, "Look, you're scaring the girl. Come and visit whenever you want to, but not as much as you do, because it's getting every other night. But just to read, because you hear about mediums, and sometimes you hear bad things about them, sometimes you hear good things about them, but Nikki writes in a way that people can understand. And if you read this one in the next magazine, it will just, it will break your heart because the poor ghost wants to see her husband again or something like that. And it's just, we forget that do ghosts have feelings? Do they miss people?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we miss people when they go. Is it the same the other way around? And it's really.
I'm pretty sure relatives and friends that I've known that have died have been pretty relieved to die and to get away from me. Personally.
Well,
but...
you know, there's always an exception to the rule, isn't there? You know?
I'm always the exception to any rule.
But also, Annie, we had the pleasure of interviewing Lorraine Warren a few years back. Obviously, sadly passed away recently.
Mm-hmm.
And we were honoured. We asked her to edit the magazine or write the editorial. We thought we'd get a no, but you know, if you don't ask, you never get an answer. And she said yes. So, just the most amazing woman. Spoke to her, humble, honest, just an amazing lady to be in the magazine. So we're very honoured to have had her in the magazine.
Lorraine Warren is someone that we've not obviously mentioned on the show or on our social media, but obviously it is a sad loss. The only reason why I haven't said anything is because I don't need to. Everyone has said something, and if I said something, I'll just be, doing it to get attention, I suppose. I don't need to.
You know what?
Everyone knows that.
A lot of people came out and said, really lovely lady, but yeah, mm-hmm. She was. I mean,
I have to admit, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about her. I mean, obviously she has her criticism because everyone does.
Well, I always say, like, the films, the Annabelle films and the Conjuring films, that's the Hollywood side of Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? If you find out more about them, you sort of grow to love them in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And
the thing is, they are good films because I'm very critical of horror films, and they're some of the best horror films I've seen in the past, however long it's been, 5-10 years or whatever, because
Hollywood was things to begin with, so you only get
also, let's not forget Lorraine was working in an industry that was driven by males.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it. I'm so
and
happy
it was there was a lot of stigma attached to what she was doing as well at the time. Now it's like a pop culture thing, paranormal industry, but when she was doing it, it was like a kind of a taboo subject. But now it's not.
And I'd like to think that she paved the way for the great female people we've got working in paranormal now.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not it actually did, I don't know, but it shouldn't be just. It's not a male thing. It's a human thing. We love it because we love it. If you don't like it, then fair enough. But why can't males and females investigate? It's just something that, luckily now, it happens. But
personally, from my experience, I've always found female investigators to be better than male investigators.
I totally agree.
I don't know what it is. I think it's because a lot of male ghosts are womanizers, and that tends. I mean. One thing Helena does, she uses that to her advantage and basically flirts with the ghosts to get activity. She's great at that. And when I do it, I usually get nothing.
Oh no, your flirtation tactics don't work. No.
I show them the goods and they just ignore me.
The thing is though, what I've noticed is, I know when I first started the magazine, we did a lot of ghost hunting events, and it was nice. Women were there. The husbands were dragged along.
That's how I got into this.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
More and more now, I don't know what's like in America, more and more, a lot of men are going on ghost hunts more than ever before, and wanting to come as well, rather than just being dragged along by the partner. So, hopefully that's changing as well. So more men are becoming more curious about it.
Yeah, they're usually the ones dressed in black, folding their arms when they get their picture taken.
You know what? The serious joke, joking apart though, we've seen really big, stocky men with tattoos and bald heads. Oh, I don't believe in this thing, and they've left the night thinking, "What the heck happened?" So it just, it just shows you sometimes.
Yeah, I have to admit, it is great to see someone who is like 6 foot. I don't know if this is the same in America, but built like a brick shithouse, with tattoos and just like and then they're like shitting themselves because stuff happens that they can't explain.
Yeah.
They are the harder they fall sometimes.
Well, true.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So,
I mean,
Paul, have you ever had a story that came to you, a submission, that was just so crazy off the wall that you thought, I can't publish this? Like,
No, never, because the paranormal is crazy, is off the wall, and there's never been. Obviously, we've got stuff that we haven't published because we've got no room until the next issue. But we never turn anything down, unless it's not very well written.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, obviously, this coming from my point of view as well. The more outlandish the story, the more people are going to read it.
Well, yeah, there is
it's
that.
Like, I mean, if you post a story like, "Oh, I went into a haunted building and I saw a ghost, and then I left," people aren't going to be interested in that. They want to. I mean, did it attack you? Did it try and possess you? Did it?
Well, I mean,
the more outlandish the story, the better.
I know I mentioned Nikki Allen, but in a previous issue, she wrote about being attacked by Witchfinder General Matthew Hopkins, or a guest on our event.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote it again as she explained it. The swear words, everything was there. The nastiness, what the Witchfinder General said to the person, and so the picture of the scratches on the bloke's skin, and it's just, it might be scary to read or not to read, but it's just great for people of the paranormal world and lovers of paranormal, not to read about, oh, here's a ghost, here's another ghost, and here's another ghost, but to read about people's experiences.
The only time I've ever turned anything down is because, I mean, we have in LPM we have horror stories as well, and the only time I've ever turned anything down is because I felt that the story was a bit risky to put in, even though it's always been my favourite ever story that I've ever been given, like fictional stories. It's still my favourite that I've ever received. Yeah, I couldn't put it in because I felt it was a bit too risky because of the story, what's actually in it and things like that. It was a bit too much. But in terms of stories about, I mean, we can have stories about serial killers, all the things they got up to, vampires, zombies, anything. I don't care. It goes in. I mean,
you know what? If it's in the public domain, then I can't see it being a problem. I know what you're saying, but if it's a personal story, as long as you get people's approval, then I think that is also a fair game. But I know what you're saying. I mean, the
problem is in our world today. I mean, like, okay, obviously you guys probably have more friends than I do on Facebook. But if I say something on Facebook, I've got 1,400 friends. I'm gonna offend someone. You can't really avoid that these days. So if you put out your magazine, someone reads it out of 1,000 people and gets offended. Well, you can't help that. You haven't done it purposely to offend that person. It's like someone going into, like if you go into a notice board and there's like piano lessons. And it's like taking that leaflet off and going, I'm offended by this, piano lessons. It's like, well, it's not on there to offend you. It's the same thing. That's what the internet is like. You don't put stuff out there purposely to offend people.
If you say it in a way where you can't, if you're not trolling somebody, you just. I mean, we've got a person who wrote about paraunity in the paranormal world and how he doesn't like it, how it divides the paranormal more than ever.
It does, actually. I agree with that.
So talk about that.
Because
and we thought, you know what, it's a great article. It's worthy of being in the magazine, so people can debate about it.
Yeah, and the internet loves a good argument. Let's be honest. But I agree with that. For me, paraunity isn't something that's going to be like we're all going to be holding hands. Every paranormal investigator around the world is all going to agree because we never will. Because we all have different theories, we all have different methods, and we're people at the end of the day. Just because we're in the paranormal industry, it could be anything. We might have personalities that just don't get on.
Totally agree.
It doesn't matter.
Mate.
I mean,
as I said before, we can discuss, we can debate, do it in a friendly manner, in a respectful manner, when people say, "Oh, para-unity, if you don't believe in para-unity, you don't believe in this, that, and the other, and you know that you're nasties." You know, it's just so wrong. You know, that's my opinion. I'm the same as you, Alex. I believe you can have friends, have a circle of trust. You can work with others.
You're gonna have cliques, basically.
Para-love, call it what you want, but para-unity, not for me, I'm afraid.
You're gonna have cliques of paranormal teams. That's how I see it, which is good. It's just make sure that doesn't then start wars between these different cliques.
And you're never going to find two people who are going to have the exact same opinion on anything. So why bother? Put your opinion out there. It's your freedom of speech. Social media, you know, or TV, or your magazine, whatever it is. You know, it's your opinion, and it's your right to put it out there, and your right to bring people in and let them tell their stories that way.
Yeah, you know, we've my view of the paranormal is I've always, like I said before, I've always respected it, but I've always wanted to have fun with it. I've laughed with it, be a bit tongue in cheek sometimes.
That's what this show's about.
And the magazine comes across that way. If I didn't like the magazine, I wouldn't do it. You know, it's a labour of love. It's a real labour of love for us, me and Andy, the designer, the guy that helps me with it. So, and people love it, and it's getting hopefully bigger and better. So, fingers crossed.
It's of all the paranormal magazines that I've come across that I feel are, you know, worthy of being compared to mine. Haunted yeah, it's a compliment. You know, if I feel someone's as good as me, then that's good because I'm amazing. No, I'm joking. I mean, Haunted Magazine for me is possibly the best paranormal magazine out there that I've come across. Anyway,
thank you. You know, and that's very kind of you to say. You know, and we think we're just scratching the surface because there's so many stories out there that aren't out there yet, and we want more stories and more fun with the paranormal. You know, so I mean, we're interviewing Greg and Dana Newkirk from America, and they are just amazing. The Hellier, I don't know if you've seen the Hellier show.
Oh my goodness. So Hellier took place not far from where I live. Yeah. And it's a story that I've heard, but until you start watching, I didn't get to see the entire thing, but when you start watching it, you're hooked.
Definitely.
It's such an interesting story, and they do it so well.
I mean, I think Greg and Dana are going to be the face. I know they're probably big now, but the future's bright for them too. I really believe so.
There's a comment that I don't quite get. Apparently, I've upset someone because I have 1,400 friends on Facebook. Fuck knows why. But whatever. Proves my point. I don't understand what his problem is, but whatever. Thank you, dickhead. So, going back to the magazine again, obviously. We've covered some of the articles, but of all the articles that you've had submitted to you, or you've written yourself, or one of your regular writers has done for you, what stands out that's been in the magazine since the first release?
Oh, there's so many. One that springs to mind is a writer called Richard Estep. I think he's based over there. He's a UK guy, but he's based in America, and he writes every issue for us. And he's a paramedic.
Okay. Did you say Richard Estep?
Pardon?
Did you say Richard Estep?
Yeah, Richard Estep. Yeah,
so
Richard.
I didn't. For some reason, my brain didn't process the name until just now. Yeah, I know who you mean. Yeah, he was at Sage. Yeah.
Amazing guy, and he wrote. I think it was last issue, by a guy called Kyle, who's got terminal cancer. Bless him, only 19 or 20, and he gets vision. He sees things. He gets visions at night, visitors at night. So Kyle's dad asked Richard to talk to him, and again Richard writes through the heart, with passion. And then Richard said, "Look, it's part of the medication that he's seeing these things, and Kyle said, "Look, I'm not on medication. I've been through medication. It's not working. I came off it 6 months ago because I'm dying." And these visitors are telling him that everything will be fine when you do go, you know. And Richard just wrote it. It made. I said when I showed Andy, my partner in the magazine, we both had this is amazing. What Richard writes good stuff, but this is so powerful because it's personal. It's about a guy called Kyle, bless him, a young kid, 20-year-old, got cancer, he's dying, not long left, and he's telling his story to Richard, and Richard's telling us. It's so amazing. So we've got so many, to be fair, but that one that stands out, really powerful for us.
Because is Richard involved in that show? I don't know if it's on Destination America or the Travel Channel about haunted hospitals and things like that.
Yeah, he's one of the guys who talk about it.
I mean, it's funny that something like that hasn't been done before, because I mean, I've spoken to mediums and stuff before who say they hate going to hospitals. It's like one of the worst places a medium can go to. And although I'm not a medium, I'm sort of sensitive to things. And a couple of weeks ago, I was at a hospital with my wife, who is a medium, Helena, and she got a ghost headache, basically. That's how she described it. But I felt a bit funny, and then we walked past the chapel and we thought, okay, let's go in there because it might actually be a bit more peaceful in there. Let's get a break. And we went in there and it got even worse. The only way I can describe it is if someone was inflating a balloon in my head. So yeah, I'm surprised that there hasn't been a paranormal show about haunted hospitals and things like that before.
Exactly. I mean, we said to a guy called Tobin, who was a producer, we said, what a great idea, because if you think about it, hospitals full of death, full of misery, full of pain, you know, so as well as obviously their job to save people, but there's so much misery and death potentially in hospitals. There's no reason, there's no wonder that activity should be rife in there, really.
Yeah, and I say this with deepest respect, but I always worry whenever I see an old person going into a hospital. Because I'm like, are they going to come out? And I hope they do, obviously.
Automatically be a ghost.
Annie, you work in the medical area, or whatever you want to refer to it, the medical industry, don't you?
I work in hospital administration, and the hospital that I work in, you know, I think a lot of us who get into paranormal investigating, we all have a little bit of a sensitivity to something that draws us in, whatever you want to call it. And so, but it's funny, the building that I work in, we have had so many things happen, and they blame it on me, naturally. They tell me that I brought something. It happened just on Friday, you know, lights flicker and light bulbs blow. But we have had sightings and strange electrical things happen and things with the phones in the building that we work in. And of course, then the stories start to come out. Well, there was a young girl who passed away upstairs, and it surprises me that not until now anyone had done a show like that. And now there's haunted hospitals, and I think there's another that they've called Paranormal 911.
Yes, there is, yeah.
It kind of revolves around nurses and EMTs, and I think that's a great premise, because you're dealing with life and death every day.
Yeah.
What's more powerful than being with someone when they pass? The emotion is crazy.
Because I've worked in a hospital before, but luckily I was working in HR, and HR was about 2 miles away from the actual hospital. So I only ever had to go to the hospital on the odd occasion. They had like a little bus service for the NHS staff. So luckily I wasn't working in the actual hospital. And although I have been I was in the basement of the hospital, and I did see someone moving a dead body. So that freaked me out a little bit, because it's just because I wasn't expecting to see it. I don't know why I wasn't expecting to see it. You should be, but I just wasn't expecting it, and it just surprised me a little bit. Have you ever had any experiences like that? Any just have interest working in the medical industry, seeing a dead body or anything?
The first time that you see them take out a dead body, like you say, it's a shock to your system, because it's a reminder that you can't save everybody. If you work in the medical field long enough, whether you're a doctor, a surgeon, a nurse, administration, you understand that you see the beginning of life and you see the end of life and everything in between, and you have to prepare yourself for that it's a cycle, and it's easy for people in the medical profession to grow a little distant from it. And I think in a way, I hate to say it, but I think it made me a better paranormal investigator, whether or not it made me a better person, because I was able to separate myself from the emotion of death a little bit.
And what are like doctors and other medical staff like? I mean, in terms of the paranormal, do they think it's all bollocks and bullshit, or do they actually believe in it themselves?
Very few you would get to admit that they believe in it. They're so, most of us are so scientific minded that unless you've had some type of experience that you're willing to talk about, then no, they don't even want to hear that opinion. The one that came to me at one point was actually a psychiatrist who worked in an upstairs office from me and was very interested in paranormal investigating and what we do. Psychiatry is a very different area of medicine too, because you're working with the mind and the psyche and spirituality. And so that's the only doctor that I've ever had approach, actually, a psychiatrist.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose a lot of psychiatrists would just give mediums and people that are seeing things just something to block it out, because they'll just think it's the brain.
We just all be medicated.
In fact, I recently found out from Annie that if men take antenatal drugs like vitamins and stuff, it's good for their hair. So
it's great for your hair.
And it's working.
That's all right then.
It's working, but I have been really emotional recently.
Yes, take some antenatals. I promise you won't grow breasts. And
I don't need to worry about that. I've already got them, so So, Paul, obviously it's issue 23 that's out now, isn't it?
Yeah, issue 23 comes out. It goes to printers next week, so it'll be out the week after, because it takes about a week to print, and they deliver it to us, and then we post it to all the subscribers and people who pre-order it, and so it's just, it's something that we love doing, and and like you said, Alex, there are magazines out there that are doing the rounds, and because we're free online as well, we do the online version about 2 weeks after print. And we were in print originally, but it just cost too much money back in the day. So we went to online, and then we came back to print, because I just love to have a magazine in my hand. Rather than just I'm at work all day on my laptop. I don't want to come home and start flicking through the computer to read something. So so just to see it in a shop, or in your hand with a glossy magazine, the shiny colour, it's just a joy to behold. So
I mean,
everyone
books,
that buys it and loves it and supports it, can't thank you enough.
Everyone thought books were dying out, and they're all suddenly making a comeback, which is brilliant, because I think some people realise that it's just nicer just to actually physically hold a book, and it's better on the eyes as well. I've got
a Kindle with so many books on, but I still love, if I'm at home and I thought I could do a read, I always pick a book from my bookcase. It's just one of them things,
and obviously all the books I have are either paranormal or occult or murder related in some way, or witchcraft or something like that. All the book, apart from my Where's Wally books, or Waldo, Where's Waldo in America, or whatever it's called. Love a good Where's Wally book. So just remind us of the website there, Son, again.
Yeah, it's www.hauntedmagazine.co.uk. Everything's there. There's a blog there. There's subscription information, back issues. Everything's there. So any problems, just you'll find me on Twitter or Facebook. Just message me, and we'll try and sort you out.
And how often do you release an issue as well? I forgot to ask that.
4 times at the minute, 4 times a year. So
yeah, that's what we just went to.
4 times a year.
Yeah.
We do it monthly, but A, it's time, and B, we like to. I don't like when I put a magazine out. We don't put a date on the cover because that's a shelf life to us. And to me, the paranormal should have no shelf life because the features you're writing about are history. That you put June on, and people don't read it in July. It's just pointless.
Yeah,
so,
some people I feel
is eternal.
I feel people might be put off because I think, oh, that's out of date. When they're
Exactly.
not, they're
Exactly.
still
So don't put a
relevant.
date on.
It's just, you know, I mean, the advertisements might be a bit old. Other than that, you know, do you have advertisements in your magazine?
Yeah, we do. We have advertise. People can pay to advertise. We realise that a lot of paranormal groups. I'm blessed with money, so we're not expensive. You know, not like the big magazines. You know, and we're also trying to do an initiative of if you buy some magazines from us and then sell them, you can make money and you get a free advert. So that's an incentive as well.
Okay.
So the advert becomes free. As an example, a company buys 10 copies at £3 each. That's 30 quid. They get listed as a stockist. They get maybe a free advert, but they can sell the magazines for £5 if they want to, or $5 or whatever, and get the money back. So it's a win-win situation. You know, most groups aren't blessed with lots of money, so we have to be realistic, and you know, obviously the big companies, who want to advertise regularly, then, well, you know, to me, the money side is irrelevant. Yes, it pays for the printing, and that's all good and well, but you know, even if we make a loss on the magazine goes on and carries on.
Okay, guys. Well, you know where to find the magazine. I'm assuming that you can email them as well if you want to, like,
you'll find
an article or
just
something.
search Haunted Magazine on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Google, wherever, you'll find us.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Paul, for coming on the show tonight. Thank you, Annie, for
Thank you for inviting me.
Co-hosting with me. Annie, do you have anything else you want to add quickly before we go?
Listen, Paul, it's just very nice meeting you, and hopefully this will invite some of our American listeners to get on there and check it out.
I hope so. We have got some American writers who write about American stories as well. So you know, it's not just a UK magazine; it's worldwide. So
awesome. Jinx, we just said awesome at the same time. So yeah, go and check it out, guys. I wouldn't back it if I didn't think it was good. I wouldn't have Paul on the show if I didn't think it was good. So go and check it out, guys. We hope that you've had a good weekend. If you're in the UK, enjoy the rest of your extended weekend. And we'll see you next time when we have Mike Diamond. That's right, the Paranormal Samurai, as I call him. He is the owner of Paranormal Warehouse. We're going to have him on the show, and we're going to poke fun at him and hope that he cries.
nice one.
Yeah.
I hope that
We're going to basically, he's agreed to it. We're going to have him on the show, and we're going to take the piss out of him. That's what he wants. So so that might be our last show next week. So make the most of it. Make the most of it, guys. So thank you for watching, and we hope you have a great week. Stop streaming.